Chapter 14. Breakfast and Bays. I woke up the next day aching and tired. Then I snoozed for about half an hour, which is, in my opinion, better than sleep, because you get to be awake just enough to enjoy it. I woke with a start when I remembered that breakfast was served at a specific time, and I didn't want to miss it. So I rolled off my bed onto my suitcases, still full of clothes, and they cushioned my fall. I just lay there with my face buried in my jumpers, using one hand to grab the clothes I would wear. Bleary-eyed, I managed to dress and make it to my door. I didn't bother with shoes. It's not as if the ship was dirty anyway, or there'd be stuff on the floor to hurt me. Outside in the corridor, I met a few other kids who were also struggling to wake themselves. "Morning, Callum," Ogwambi said. His door was opposite mine. I yawned in his face, which of course caused him to yawn. "Morning, Ogwambi," I said, stretching. "Sleep well?" "Not bad," Ogwambi replied. "I've never slept somewhere that has a constant rumbling noise, though. It's nothing like traffic or city noise." "I didn't notice anything," I replied. "Heavy sleeper?" he asked. "I guess so," I said, wiping my eyes. "Shall we get breakfast?" "Good idea. What do you think we'll be eating?" Ogwambe asked, as we walked towards the cafeteria. "I don't know. Probably cereal or something dehydrated, since that will last for ages," I suggested. "Milk?" he inquired. "Probably that dry stuff that just needs water." "I hate that stuff," Ogwambe said. "In Uganda, real milk was a luxury. I only ever managed to have it a few times a year." "I haven't had milk since the rationings began," I said. The Destroyer had made raising crops and animals very difficult in the last months of Earth's life. Parliament took control of all livestock and crops to ensure proper food was provided for the British people. Given the resource costs, milk was especially rare. "I thought you Brits needed milk for your tea," Ogwambe said, smiling. "I never developed a taste for it," I said, smiling back. "I did love chocolate cake, though." Then I realised that I was probably never going to taste chocolate cake again. With whipped cream and sprinkles, that's not going to happen. At least not for a few years. If we could make it to our new planet and grow what I needed to make one, then I guess I would taste that lovely cake once more. Oh my goodness. Years without chocolate cake. What was I going to do? "What do you think this inspection of the cargo bays is going to be about?" Ogwambe said, changing the subject. "I don't know," I said. "Maybe it's just to make sure everything we need is on board." "What? We don't have everything?" Ogwambe said. "It's not like we're going back to Earth to reload." "Good point," I said. "It's probably all there." We entered the cafeteria and found it mostly empty. The food dispensers offered us cereal and, surprisingly, some fruit, along with a glass of apple juice. I'd never felt so excited for something so relatively plain. I waited for Ogwambe to collect his tray from the dispenser. Other kids had started to funnel into the cafeteria along with us. We took our seats at the same table we sat at last night. Koila and Larian had already sat down. We were forming a bit of a clique. "Guys," I said, greeting them. "Mates," Koila said. "Da," Larian replied in his native Russian. Then he scooped a spoonful of cereal into his mouth. Drifting into the hall came more and more kids. "I'm surprised to see everyone coming in at the same time," I said. "I didn't hear an alarm. Did you?" "Nope," Ogwambe said, prodding the fruit at his tray. "It's probably the memories we have floating around in our minds. Seems like they could make us punctual as well as smarter." He took a bite of his food, chewed, and then spit it out on the tray. "Not a fan of mango?" I asked. "No," he replied. "Tastes soapy to me." "You should have said. I don't want my apple," Koila said. "Why did you eat it if it tastes like soap?" I asked. "My mind is telling me I like them," Ogwambe said. "I keep thinking it looks good, and then my tongue says otherwise." "It's those memories again," Ilarion said. "Captain Yuri likes oranges, but I know that I hated them." He took the orange from his tray and tossed it onto the floor. Then almost immediately, Ilarion stood up, gathered the orange, and put it back on his tray. "Captain Yuri?" I asked. "He was the military mind I got to help me adapt to my role as Russian representative," Ilarion said. "Oh, I got a Captain Amos," I said. "We probably all got a mix that would help us work together," Ogwambe said. "Did you get any of their military training?" Koila asked. "Special ops, guns and war, anything cool?" The three of us shook our heads. "Captain Amos gave me many things, but nothing like that." "Me neither," Koila replied sullenly. Then a boy named Khan from Bangladesh entered the room. I remembered him from yesterday when we were fixing the leaky pipes. He had jumped and climbed with the agility of an Olympian to reach the pipes really high up. Once he had his food, he asked to join us, and we all gestured to an empty seat. "Thank you," he said. Then Khan sat and ate in silence, waiting for us to either resume our conversation or talk to him. A thought hit me. We weren't children, or really teenagers anymore. There were no adults, save for one, if one was an adult. There weren't younger kids anymore either. It didn't seem right referring to everyone as kids, or teenagers, or children anymore. I tapped my spoon against my cereal bowl to command attention. "We need a proper name for what we are," I said. "What do you mean?" Alarian asked. "We need a title for who we are now. The Earth is gone. What should we call ourselves?" I said. "Well, we're astronauts, aren't we?" Coiler said. "We're on a spaceship travelling through space." "Yeah, but we pretty much live here now. Space isn't somewhere we're exploring. We kind of live in it," Alarian said. "We're survivors," Ogwambe said. "Or the last humans," he said seriously. "Arkonauts," Calm suddenly said. "Arkonauts," I repeated, testing the new word. "It's good," Coiler said. "I like it." "From now on, we are Arkonauts," Ogwambe said. We raised our cups of juice and clinked glasses to cement our new name. "Comrades," Alarian said in a hushed whisper. "It's here." He nodded back towards the door. One had just entered the cafeteria for his breakfast. He was the last to arrive and sat down, alone. "At least we know he's human," Coiler said. "He eats actual food." "I don't think we know that for sure," I said, "but I wouldn't speak badly of one, just to be safe." "Why?" Ogwambe said. "He hears everything," I replied. We all turned to him to see if Coiler's earlier comment led to one looking in our direction, but his focus remained on the food dispenser. "How old do you think he is?" Ogwambe whispered. "He looks like a kid and an adult." "He must be a few years older than us, at least," Calm said. "He's so tall." One suddenly set down his spoon and raised his hands into the air, clearly signalling to us. He held all 10 fingers up to signify 10, then closed his hands once to signify another 10, and then held up another 5. 25, I guessed. One nodded his head and went back to eating. "See," I whispered to the others at the table. "One hears everything." For an hour, the cafeteria was abuzz with conversation. The new name, Arkonaut, drifted around the room as Arkonauts discussed their rooms and how they slept. Some shared their sadness at leaving Earth. The mourning would take some time to pass. Eventually, some Arkonauts sat with one, but they were a little guarded and cold towards him, talking mostly amongst themselves. After an hour, one stood up and surveyed the room. "Crew of the Ark," he said loudly. A few conversations became quieter, but for the most part, everyone ignored him. One tried again, slightly louder, and saw the same result. The others were too absorbed in their food and each other to pay attention to him. Then Coiler stood up on the table and shouted, "Arkonauts!" That quieted the room, as everyone looked towards Coiler. One stared at him, clearly taken aback. "We're Arkonauts," Coiler said. "That's what we're calling ourselves now. You know, like astronauts, but on the Ark." Some of the others cheered as Coiler said it. One just watched, scanning the room, observing. Then one stepped up onto the table where he was seated, and in a booming voice said, "Arkonauts." We all listened to him now. "We must all inspect the cargo bays today," one said. "It is time to assess our supplies and recover equipment essential for our daily survival. Most of the equipment and material stored in the Ark is for our eventual arrival at a new planet, therefore it will be left in the bay. The service robots will be the only ones to utilize the bays after today. You will randomly be assigned into teams and given areas of the bay to record an inventory. Please assemble in the observation room in 30 minutes. The cargo bays are refrigerated areas, for good reason, so dress warmly. Clothes and scarves may be necessary." "What if we don't have gloves and scarves?" a girl called out. "Why don't you have them?" one asked. "I come from Mexico." It was Gloria. I remembered her from the orientation video. "We don't really do winter." "I bought extra," Alarian said. "Me too," said Erika, the Icelander. "Looks like some sharing will solve your conundrum, Gloria," one said. "See you in the observation room in half an hour." One stepped down from the table, turned, and walked out of the room. "Where do you think he sleeps?" Ogwambe asked. "Maybe he doesn't," Coiler suggested. "You're making one sound almost superhuman," Calm said. I remembered his speed and stealth, and hearing my heartbeat from yesterday. I couldn't discount the possibility. We all went back to our rooms to change. I used the time to shower and forgot about the water limit. I used up my daily supply with soap still in my hair. Life on the Ark would take some getting used to. I dressed in jeans, a jumper, and grabbed gloves and a scarf. I met up with Coiler, Bay, Jalind, and Alarian, and we all walked together to the observation room. We chatted about what we imagined was in the cargo bay and what we hoped we would find. The common theme was chocolate. Chocolate in some form or another would be the greatest treasure. None of us had enjoyed a decent chocolate bar for some time. We gathered with the rest of the Arkonauts in the observation room. Outside the window, a comet passed by. Everyone herded to the window to watch it fly, its burning tail painting the blackness of space. I stood next to Jalind. We shared a subtle smile, as we had experienced Mars together the other night. We watched a comet as it burned. It was no Mars, but it was still impressive. As the object left our view, one spoke up. "Arkonauts," he called out. We all turned dutifully to face him, but stayed at the window. "I will call names, separating you into groups of 6, one said. Each group will receive a tablet with maps of the cargo bay and your assignments. Please pay careful attention, especially if you're checking the food supply areas." "Don't worry," one continued. "I will be observing each group and offering assistance with assignments as necessary. At the entrance to the cargo bay, you will notice a single isolated stack of crates. You will have 30 minutes to inspect their contents yourselves." "What's inside them?" Gloria asked. "That is the purpose of inspecting them," one replied. One called out names in quick lists of 6. When a team gathered before him, one handed out a tablet. One repeated the process until we were split into about 40 groups, now assigned a tablet. "Now follow me," one said, striding out of the observation room. My group put me with 5 other Arkonauts I had not met yet. We were the closest behind one, trying to keep pace. For the first time since arriving on board, we encountered a staircase. It was built into a steep, downward-sloping tunnel, much like one of the old underground stations in London. The stairs led a few levels down to a gigantic cogwheel door that had been rolled into position on giant teeth like a vault. "Welcome to the cargo bay," one said. "When I open it, there will be a rush of air as the vacuum that was put in place to help maintain the food supply displaces. Please brace yourself." One went up to a control panel next to the door and activated the locking mechanism. A small cog near the base of the door started to turn, activating another mechanism, and the huge door started to roll open. As it broke free of the door frame, breaking the seal, there was no sound. I felt no rush of air. I looked at one. He was frowning. "Shouldn't there have been a rush of air?" I asked. One didn't answer, still staring at the door. "One?" I said. "The seal has already been broken," one answered. "There is a leak in the bay somewhere, or—" "Or?" I asked. "Never mind," one said. "I misspoke. Proceed with your instructions." One then sprinted into the bay ahead of us. He was like a blur, disappearing through the widening gap in the door. I turned back to my group, and then towards everyone else. We all seemed to share the same concern, but no one said anything aloud. I followed one into the bay, with the others close behind. This might not be an easy task, after all. Thank you for listening to this chapter from Stolen Futures. Please like or comment on this video, and subscribe to The Eighth Plot so you don't miss out on the next installment of this book. Goodbye.